All right, we're going to move on. We really behind schedule, and we want to make sure that we try to stay on schedule because a lot of times people are extremely busy. And our next presenter is none other than Byron White, who is the Director of Supported Employment and Community Waiver Program in the Department of Mental Health. And Byron is very knowledgeable. He's very supportive. I try to make it in my business to at least see him once a week, so we kind of talk and feed off each other. So I do thank him for being here. I know he's had a busy week, and he's going to bring some very important information to us today. So we want to welcome him and give this space of time to him.
Thank you, Darren.
You're welcome.
I think that's a sign. All right, good afternoon. I am going to definitely get you back closer to your agenda because I am on a tight schedule. My supervisor called a 3 o'clock meeting, and I'm hoping to be back by 3:30. So it's going to be very brief for me today. I will not have time to take questions. I apologize, but I know y'all running behind. It's putting me behind a little bit, so I'm going to speed up. Not going to really do the entire talk that I had planned on, just kind of give you a quick overview of where we are at the Department of Mental Health's Division of Developmental Disabilities. As Darrell mentioned, I'm Byron White, and I coordinate our employment efforts there. And in August, I was named the Director of the Community Waiver Program, which is something that's very exciting going on right now, but it has got us all running in a lot of different directions. And the meeting this afternoon is to get a quarterly report due to CMS finalized. So that's really important because that's our funding and continuation of this new waiver. So I have a couple of my staff, or my employees with me today, Derek Greer and Virginia Maddox. They're two of our regional employment specialists. Several years ago, the Department of Mental Health's DD division decided that employment really needs to be our priority. At the national level, the movement is to get people out of congregated, sheltered, workshop, day-type programs and let those individuals be part of their communities through working, volunteering, doing the same kinds of things we do in our communities. It's really being driven by the home and community-based settings rule, which says people should have every access possible to their communities, live independent as much as possible, and to work. That settings rule was initially going to be fully implemented, I believe, in 2021. Maybe fortunately, because we were not quite ready. If we see any positive outcome of COVID, it did delay the effective date of HCBS. That is now March of 2023. So we still got about a year. And what we're actively doing is trying to get all of our provider agencies in compliance to the settings rule. So there's been a lot of self-assessments taking place among all of our day providers, our residential providers, just making sure that their services, as I mentioned, give the people they serve opportunities to be part of their community. If they're living in a group home, does their bedroom door have a lock? The kinds of thinking that we've not always done. And rather than the van on Sunday morning taking everybody to the Baptist church, the people they serve have a choice of where they go to church. Maybe they don't want to go to the Baptist church. Maybe they don't want to go to church at all, so they have choice. So the van just doesn't pull up and everybody get on the same van and go to the same church. That's a simple description, but that's really what the settings rule is trying to do. Our current, don't get me wrong, the settings rule, there is still a lot of work going on trying to get our providers in compliance. Because if they're not in compliance, by September the 30th of this year, we will begin to work with individuals to help them start moving to different settings that are in compliance. So we're doing everything in as much as possible to get our provider agencies compliant with the settings rule. But back in 2019, 2018, there began to be some chatter in our office about maybe developing a new waiver that would have a focus on employment. And so from that initial discussion and some stakeholder engagement, some forums and other work, bringing a consultant into our state, we developed what's called a community waiver program. And I know I've got some things on the slide. By the way, that's how you call me if you need to call me or reach me after I run out on y'all this afternoon. Feel free to call me anytime or send me an email, and I'll do my best to get back with you as quickly as I can. But our agency operated 2 waivers prior to this third waiver I'm going to talk about. We had an ID waiver, which is our comprehensive waiver, and then a living at home waiver, which does what it says, is help people to continue to live at home while receiving services. We serve about 6,000 plus people across the state of Alabama, and we have a waiting list, people waiting for services, that fluctuates between 1,500 and 2,000 people at any given time. So we, along with our consultant, actually developed a new waiver. We named it the Community Waiver Program, and it's a combination, not to bore you or confuse you like it does me, because Medicaid is not my background. I'm learning a lot these days, of an 1115 and a 1915C waiver. And it's a demonstration waiver, which means with this demonstration, we're going to be trying new ways of doing things. And to prove to ourselves, as well as CMS, with these waivers, we can do a better job of serving people, possibly faster, possibly at less cost, and certainly having better outcomes. So that's kind of what we're trying to do. And so the demonstration is allowing us to do 3 things different for sure, maybe others, but 3 things that come to mind just off the top of the list is it's changed the way we work the waiting list. With our existing waivers, that was always criticality. So maybe you got on the waiting list 20 years ago, and every year or 6 months you would check with your case manager and you're still at number 700. The chances of you ever reaching the top to get services was not very good. And so this allows us to look at length of time on the waiting list as a factor in getting services in the community waiver program versus the criticality. It also is allowing us to look at a different way of providing case management / new name support coordination services, rather than those services with the CWP being provided by 310 agencies. That's now in 4 of our regions being provided by employees of the Department of Mental Health who are serving as support coordinators. And then the third thing that's really interesting, it's allowing us a different way to manage our provider network. So in the existing waivers, if I decide to open a group home, I had the right to call mental health, pay a fee, send an application, go to a training, and open a group home. And what happens is you get so many group homes across the state that nobody is really overly successful because we don't have enough people to make those individuals really successful with maintaining enough people to support their group homes. So with the CWP, it's allowing us to limit our provider network through what we call preferred provider qualifications. So we're sort of able to, and I hate to use the word pick and choose, but pick and choose the providers that provide CWP services. They have to meet certain credentialing, and again, it's too much information to get in today. But those are 3 of the top things that the demonstration is allowing that's a little bit different. Working the waiting list, the provider network, and the way we provide case management services. Okay, it's quit advancing, so I think it went into, I don't know what happened. So why is this thing not advancing, Alex? Any particular reason? Did I hit something? Maybe I did, and that's probably this right here. Now maybe it's it. There we go. So this waiver is going to really focus on, as I've probably said already, 3 things. We want to serve people before they get in crisis. That's the number 1 thing. With the existing waivers, you're on the waiting list so long, and the criticality finally gets you to the top of the waiting list because you're in crisis. You're about to be homeless because maybe your aging parent has died. You finally got to the top, you finally got services. With this waiver, with CWP, and the way we're working the waiting list, we're going to get to you before you get in crisis. We want to keep people in their own homes and with their own families. So we're going to bring the supports into the person's existing home and natural support rather than trying to steer them directly to a group home. And that's really an education piece we're facing right now. Our history has always been we get a call, somebody's in crisis, they need a group home. And so what do we do in the ID waiver? We found them a group home and they move to a group home. That's where they live the rest of their life. That is now last resort. So if we get a call and says, hey, so-and-so needs a group home, we have to do a lot of behavioral and medical assessments to figure out that really is the only option. As much as possible, we try to figure out how to bring in-home supports and community supports to keep the families together, or even help the person move into their own apartment with supports. So that's the second, and then the third is people having a job. This waiver really supports people getting competitive integrated employment. So again, serving people before they get into crisis, keeping them in their own homes or the homes with their family, and the ability to get a job and work in their communities. So this waiver is available currently in 11 counties, and you'll see those counties there. Just quickly, Limestone, Madison, Morgan, Tuscaloosa, and Walker, Mobile, Baldwin, Montgomery, Houston, Elmore, and then in Jefferson. So if you live in one of these counties or you're a family member and you need waiver services, the CWP is your only option. So that we're no longer enrolling individuals in the ID and living at home in these 11 counties. So this is the waiver of the future. And that's the priority enrollment categories. Eligibility has not changed, so the eligibility is still the same. We still have just one waiting list, so you have to go through the process of getting on the waiting list. None of that has changed. I'm going to go through this really quick now. So this is our first year. We're going to try to enroll 500 people. We're already a little bit behind on our per month enrollments. We did enroll in the month of November. We enrolled 34 people, so we almost made the 35, but in December we only enrolled one. Let me tell you what's going on. It kind of is a result of what you've heard earlier. Right now, there is a national shortage of direct service professionals, DSPs. Providers are having a very difficult time recruiting staff. So if you don't have staff, you can't provide services. So we did not feel we needed to continue to enroll people and then not have service providers that could offer services. So we've slowed the enrollment process until our providers tell us they're ready. And we did a survey in December, and we've gotten the results, and we're seeing good potential for February, that they should have their staff in place and ready to go. And in addition to the difficulty hiring people, the waiver approval was delayed several times. So the providers that were approved to be part of our network, they lost momentum. You know, they kept getting ready to hire and move, and then there would be another delay. And then another, it was CMS, they'd tell us to make another edit. So because of all those delays, I think the providers again lost momentum, and they didn't want to hire a bunch of people before the waiver got approved. So we're trying to play a little catch up. But you will see by the end of, actually this is going to be September of 2022, we should have 500 people enrolled in the waiver. And that's what the enrollments look like per region. And one thing on this slide that I will mention that's very encouraging, we've done a lot of outreach to individuals and families this first several months, waiting on CMS to approve it. Number one, would you be interested in the CWP? And number two, do you have any interest in working? And so we got initially 49% of the people that said, yes, I would like the waiver, also said I would like a job. And so if we get 49% of the people working, we currently have less than 5% of the people with IDD in our state employed. So that would be a drastic change in percentage. It'll put Alabama from the bottom, boost us way on up towards the top. So let's keep our fingers crossed on that. So without new appropriations, we're projecting in the next 5 years to have really over 1,600 people enrolled in the CWP. So as those enrollments in the CWP go up, the numbers on the waiting list go down. So again, we're projecting to eventually eliminate the waiting list because of this new waiver. And then the enrollment groups, and I'm going to quickly go through those, and I'm going to kind of close it out to get y'all back on schedule. There are 5 enrollment groups, and these enrollment groups, it depends on the person's age and also what services they need. So enrollment group 1, that's specifically for individuals ages 3 to 13. And then you can see there what services would be available to a person that's 3 years old, 10 years old, 13 years old. And then each enrollment group has an annual yearly expenditure cap. So, you know, if a person gets into the CWP and they're 10 years old, these would be the services available to them, and they would need to stay under this expenditure cap. 2, we get up to 14 to 21. We get more services here. You'll see on this right side some really nice things like housing startup, where there's money to help you pay your deposit, get your utilities turned on. You know, again, a real big focus to get people into their own living situations, away from those community-type group homes. Right now, most of our, and in fact, all the people enrolled so far are in Group 3. This will be the largest enrollment group. A lot of services. You'll see the expenditure cap. If they're living with a family, it's $30,000 a year. If they move into their own place, it's $45,000. That's Medicaid dollars, helping them through the receiving this list of services here. Employment, of course, is certainly one. This would be your group where the person would require some type of community residential program. So for a person, if we go through all of that and get to that last resort, you'll see that's the largest expenditure cap. So a person's got very significant behavioral medical needs, that cap would be at $100,000. So, but we're trying to, again, do as I said. This is the last resort. This is for a person, at the end of the day, this is absolutely the only option. That would be the person that moves into the group homes. And then I'll mention this is kind of different too. So this is a smaller number. We're enrolling, I think, 26 people in enrollment group 5. This is the 1115 part of the waiver. So there are some individuals who almost meet eligibility. They have the IQ under 70, but rather than having 3 deficits in life functioning, they only have 1. Well, in this group 5, 1115, they can actually receive waiver services. So this is certainly new to our state, and so far we have not enrolled anyone in that group, but we're participating 26 by the end of this fiscal year. You still go through the call center process of getting on the waiting list. And I'm going to stop there. I could talk a lot about support coordination, the training curriculum, and a lot of other things, but again, I know we're behind in schedule, and I'm trying to get you caught up. Feel free to email me or call me, or Daryl can get with me, and maybe I can speak to y'all again. Congratulations on being selected to participate. As Ms. Burdishaw mentioned, my familiarity with PIPA is when I first started working for ADRS as a VR counselor way back when PIPA was alive and well, and I remember going to several graduations 2 or 3 years before the program ended. So I know it was a great program then, and I know it's going to be just as good this round. So congratulations, and thank y'all for having me. And I'm going to get back to Montgomery to a Medicaid quarterly report meeting. Ugh, yuck.
Yeah. Thank you, Byron. We wanted to thank you for taking time in your schedule to be with us today. So we appreciate all of the valuable information that you all have given. And I know, listening to Byron, you see that Alabama has come a long ways, but guess what? Alabama still has a long ways to go. So we do thank Byron for sharing that information. And I want to encourage you again to please write down your questions. If you have any, write them down. You can always communicate with me, Linda, at some point, and we'll make sure that you get your question answered in some way, shape, or fashion. So we want to try to be on schedule as much as possible.